Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salatu salamu ala ibadihi alladhina istafa salamun ala mursaleen. Respected listeners, our children now have the summer holidays, and most of the madrasas tend to give holidays in the summer to align the holidays with the school. But the issue we have is, how are our children going to spend their summer holidays? For some parents, whether at school, nursery or madrasa, the hours they spend in school and nursery are 6 hours away from the kids. But really, madrasa or school is an environment where our children build themselves for the future. Now the question comes that our children now have 6 weeks off. What do we expect them to do in them 6 weeks? Whereas if they were in school, the entire day will be occupied with learning. And the fact of the matter is that we live in a country where we can't be overly strict with our children. So it's not realistic to expect our children to use the entire 6 weeks, 4 or 5 hours a day to study, to revise. That's just not going to happen. On the other hand, it can be quite destructive for our children's future to allow them a free hand. Because if we were to allow our children to do as they please, then most children would spend the entire day and night on their console. And sometimes as family members we may think that this is a good thing, that our child, as long as he's on the console, he is not doing anything wrong. But there are better ways for our children to spend their time than on their console. So as parents, the first thing that needs to be done is to restrict the time children play on their consoles. Have limits. Have boundaries. This is very important. Secondly, in the holidays, spend time with your children. And one of the reasons why we as a madrasa have given off the children during the summer holidays is so parents can spend time with their children. The ustads can spend time with their children. Because there is no greater factor in tarbiyah and nurturing of children than the parents themselves. Parents play a big role in the tarbiyah of their children, bigger than the madrasa and the teacher. And this is a common objection, that we send our children to madrasa, what has he learned? There's only so much a 2-hour maktab, a 3-hour maktab can do. The real learning of akhlaq, of character, starts at home, from the age of 4. The second thing I want to mention is, this week I received a message. A youngster from Hekumwaik, he reached out to me. And he said, Mawlana, I want to leave Islam. This is something happens all the time. Mawlana, I want to leave Islam. So I asked him, what's the situation? What makes you say that? So he said, my father in the masjid, these are his words, acts all religious. He's very deendar on the outside. But when he comes home with the family, he's very aggressive, abusive, verbally abusive. And friends, as I mentioned, this is a common story. That our children, their image of Islam is you as parents. If in the masjid you have respect and you portray a certain amount of religiousness, but you go home and you're abusive to your wife and your children, your child will grow up with a hatred of anything associated with deen. And this father is a cause of doubts of Islam in the heart of his child. Now you approach the same father and say to him, your child has doubts about Islam. He is going to run from imam to imam. Mawlana, please talk to my son. Not realizing that the cause of the shukuk and shubahat of his child is his own character. So I implore parents that treat your children with the akhlaq of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Your akhlaq will bring them towards deen or push them away from deen. And I mentioned this previously, that even through makatib things have changed. MashaAllah, some of my students are here. In the past year, pre-COVID and after COVID, if you can call it that, I've taken my students out to play football, I've taken them to a trampoline park. We had plans to go out for a meal as well. Because I want to instill in my students the love of madrasa, the love of deen, the love of ulama. And we have to move with the times. Instill the love of Islam in your children. And one of the biggest complaints we get as imams from parents is, my child, he's 17, 18, he does not offer salah. But the question we need to ask ourselves, where does this stem from? We have the 6 weeks holidays. How many parents are going to encourage their children to come to the masjid for dhuhr, for asr, for maghrib? This is why we need to place limits on the console and the games of our children. Or place conditions that I'll only allow you to play your console if you read salah in the masjid. These 6 weeks are a very important time. You know, when these teenagers turn 20, 22, and the same parents say, you will be home at 10. And the son argues with the father. And the father comes to Imam Sahib. That this is the situation. You know, the first thing that goes through our mind is, when this child was 12, 13, were you sending him to salah, for salah in the masjid? You know, most parents, mashallah, are great. But you know, one of the causes of the lack of deen in our Muslim youth in the age of 20s is because there was no environment of deen in their teens. My friends, you can't cry when your child reaches 25 if he has no deen in his life, if you weren't nurturing deen into him at the age of 12. Easter holidays, Christmas holidays, all the holidays you can name, children do not have madrasa, they don't have school. But we still don't see our children in the masjid. What excuse does a 12, 13, 14-year-old child have not to attend Dhuhr and Asr Salah? As parents, bring your children along. If you inculcate the habit of Salah at this age, 12, 13, then inshallah by the age of 19, 20, they will read themselves. But you can't cry when they're 25 and not offering Salah if you did not inculcate the habit in them when they were younger. We ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to grant us the faham of your deen wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.